Happy Monday, everybody. I hope that you had a good weekend and I hope that your morning started off decently. Today, there's just some stories that I had come across in the news. Um, that they didn't just, these are the types of stories that you have to actually look for. Otherwise, you're never going to hear about them. They're usually just local stories. They never go out nationally, even though um, maybe they deserve to have some national attention, but they don't. And as I'm sitting here talking about these stories, there is another story that popped into my head just now, actually, that I had listened and to a video that somebody had made. And if I have time, I'm going to go and pull that up and talk about it. But I don't want to mention it because if I don't have time, I can talk about it later. It's not, of importance to talk about it like right now. It can be talked about later because it's going to continue to go on for a while, I'm sure. So, today, the first thing that I want to talk about, so there are three stories that I came across that I thought deserved some attention. The first one being about the Capitol protest. And the reason I'm not calling, I've already said before, I'm not calling it an insurrection. I'm not calling it a riot or a siege. It was a protest. Yes, some people got out of hand. But if you look at who got out of hand, I think you can make a distinction of who is who that was there that day. It was not all Trump supporters. There were Antifa members there. Um, so it, it wasn't anything but a protest with some people getting out of hand. It wasn't a full blown riot. It didn't last for months on end or even still going on to this day. It lasted a few hours. I think it was like 2.5 hours, I think. Anyway, a 73-year-old pastor and Purple Heart veteran arrested for being at Capitol. His son also arrested in front of 3-year-old daughter. It says so we just read that, but a 73-year-old Purple Heart Vietnam veteran and pastor James Cusick has been arrested at his home in Florida for being at the Capitol on January 6th, though he was not involved in any violence or vandalism. And also, this is from the Gateway Pundit, written by Cassandra Fairbanks. I always like to try and give credit. His son Casey was also arrested in front of his distraught 3-year-old daughter, who asked why they were locking her dad's hands. He is also not accused of any violence or vandalism. Videos of the heartbreaking scene were provided to the Gateway Pundit. The arrest took place on Thursday morning. Quote, "This morning I saw a sheriff pull up in our driveway with his lights on, and there was about 4 or 5 other cars with them," his daughter Stacy told the Gateway Pundit. "They came up to our front door, and I told my dad to go answer it. As he started towards the door, they started banging and banging and saying, 'Open up, we have a warrant.' He opened the door, and they asked him his name and to step outside." Stacy explained that the officer saw her standing in the kitchen and demanded that she also go outside. When she got into the front yard, she saw them telling her elderly father to turn around and proceeded to handcuff him. I believe this is her father here. "They asked me my name, and I told them I was his daughter Stacy. They said they were not looking for me, but told me to put my hands on the back of the sheriff's vehicle. My dad asked what it was about, and they told him it was because he entered the Capitol building on January 6th. James Cusick was shocked, she said, to find out what the arrest was about. When he was at the Capitol, he was friendly with officers who directed him to a bathroom. His daughter says that they never told him to leave. He began to defend himself, but the agents and sheriffs reminded him that everything he says can be used against him and to wait until he has a lawyer. I asked him if they could take the handcuffs off him because I was upset seeing my 73-year-old father in handcuffs. They said no. After a search and some questioning, they took Stacy and her father inside and asked him to get the clothing items he wore that day, which he did. I told him that, oh, they also asked him to get his passport and told Stacy to bring it to court when she goes to pick him up after his arraignment. What are they going to put him on the no-fly list? She was told that he will be tried in the state of Virginia or Washington, D.C. I told him that my dad is a veteran and he has never been in trouble with the law. They told me that they understand that, but he did break the law, she said. I told him my dad is opposed to any type of vandalism and that he never even saw any when he was there. When he was standing there in the Capitol, the police or guards, not sure which they were talking to him and being kind. They showed him where the bathrooms were. Nobody was telling them to get out. There was never any type of warning that they were breaking the law. None of that was happening. And we do know that we have seen videos where cops were holding the door open on one side and just allowing people to come in. Photographs from the Department of Justice back up Cusick's story and show him casually speaking with officers. And this was at 3:18 p.m. that day. Yeah, casually. They said they understand that and they're not the bad guys. We're just here doing what we're told, Stacy said. My dad loves this country. He volunteered to go to Vietnam and fight. He served 16 months there proudly. He has taken so many kids on trips to Washington, D.C. to let them see this great country. He's very passionate about his nation. He's a pastor and he holds the Constitution in a very high regard. He hates what is happening to this country, but he would never vandalize or harm any government property or anything for that matter. He's a very upstanding man, and I was devastated to see him taken away. Her voice shaking as she began to cry, Stacy added, "There's just no reason for it. He did nothing to deserve what we saw this morning. I don't understand why they would feel okay doing this to someone like him. I think they felt bad about it, but they kept saying it's their job." See, that's the problem, okay? When we talk about backing the blue, yeah, I do agree that we should support our police officers when they're doing their job correctly because they are putting their lives on the lines to keep people safe. However, you cannot support them blindly because one thing you have to remember is the police are an extension of the state. And when they're told to do something, even if it's unconstitutional, we've seen them follow through and do things that are unconstitutional because, quote unquote, it's their job. But it's not their job. Their job is to uphold the law and the Constitution. They uphold the Constitution and they enforce the already written laws. It is not their jobs to do what they're told if they're going to be violating someone's rights. And if they do it anyway, you can no longer support them. Because when they start violating your rights and they say they come and start taking your guns, things like that, who do you think they're sending? They're sending the police officers that you support. That's why you can only support them so much because as soon as this turns into something where it's a martial law situation or it's just government controlled, those are the same people who are going to violate your rights and the Constitution and go against what they said that they would do when they took on the job of being a police officer. So you have to be very careful how you support them. Stacy said it made her uneasy to know that people who see that this is wrong would still be willing to do it because it's their job. That's my problem. I understand people don't want to lose their jobs. I get it. However, when you know that you're doing something that's wrong, not just wrong, but technically not even legal by any standard, just quit. Go somewhere else. Go find a place that will allow you to do your job properly and not force you to violate someone's rights. Because if they don't start doing that, you're never going to have anybody wanting to support the police anymore. And I'm not talking like BLM and Antifa and the left demanding to defund the police. I'm talking about people that trust the police. They're not going to trust them anymore, and they're going to not want to have them involved in anything because they don't trust them. Because they can't be trusted if they're going to just do what they're told, even if it's wrong. While they were arresting the pastor, law enforcement and the FBI were also at the homes of his friend that was with him and his son. All three men were taken into custody. Video of Casey's arrest, taken from the ring that they luckily happened to install yesterday, was provided to the Gateway Pundit. Let's see. This one here. Guns out? Why did he have his gun out?
Hey, we gotta keep that door open. We need visibility in there. I want you back. Hi, how you doing? Just you guys? Okay. Can we go ahead and have you come out? So we're gonna have to clear this residence.
Wait a second. Why is he?
We have an arrest warrant for him, but we need you, ma'am, to go ahead and step out. Okay?
Why do you have an arrest warrant?
Well, it'll be explained, but we need you to come out of the house. Okay?
Ella, honey, can you come, please?
Don't they have to
Just have you step
explain
over here to the
first?
Everything will be okay, all right?
Is anybody inside the residence?
No.
Just you guys.
Step over here.
Nobody else is in there, okay?
Step over the window, make sure.
All right, we need somebody to stay with her.
Okay, where is the arrest?
Hey, Kevin.
Can I?
Can you stay with her while we?
Yeah, don't they have to show the warrant too? Do they not have to show the warrant? I don't know because I've never been served a search warrant, so or an arrest warrant. But you would think they'd have to show it, I guess, if they asked. But why did he have his gun out? And why was he like covering the camera? Seems a bit weird to me. Continuing on, my brother lives in another town close by, about 15 minutes away, Stacy explained. He was arrested just before my father was arrested, but we did not know at the time. His 3-year-old daughter, Stacy explained, was standing right there saying, "Why are they locking his hands, Mommy?" Let's see.
The residence.
No.
Just you guys.
Step over here.
Nobody else is in there, okay?
Step over the window, make sure.
All right, we need somebody to stay with her.
Yep.
Okay,
He's got her.
where is the arrest
Hey, Kevin.
warrant? Can I?
You stay with her
Come over
while
here.
we. It's okay, buddy.
Can I?
I still don't understand why they have why everyone has a gun pulled.
It's okay.
I mean, nobody's doing anything.
Leaving, it's okay.
Can you come over here? Ma'am, is there anybody else inside?
No,
Call
there's
the
nobody
dog.
else
Call the dog
inside.
to you. Call the dog to
Sully,
you.
come here.
Hey,
Sully?
Sully, come here.
it's okay. Come on.
Sully? Sully?
Not this way. Leash at all, or?
No, he doesn't.
I think he's a little shy.
So we got one door to the right. We got a kitchen.
Got kids around and they've all got their guns out.
Okay, so they're saying they have an arrest warrant.
Yes, ma'am.
Can I see it?
Yeah, we'll get you a copy of that as soon as they're done here and they clear all that stuff. So we have a search warrant too, and we'll show you a copy of that.
Okay.
Absolutely ridiculous.
They're just clearing it now.
Fine. What is he being arrested for?
This is involved with the January 6th events.
Daddy, what, Mommy?
It's okay, sweetie.
Why are they locking Daddy's hands?
They're just looking at the house right now.
Oh. So, oh, I know why they're locking their hands. Because,
So all we're looking for is a hat and a jacket.
A hat and a jacket. You can't just come ask for that. You gotta pull guns out to ask for a hat and a jacket. That's ridiculous. She maintains that her brother is not a violent man and would not have supported vandalism. Again, they maintain that their group never even saw any. The search warrant for Casey, provided to the Gateway Pundit, showed that they were looking for any clothing he wore during the protest, specifically including a red hat that read Trump on the front. Of course they were. Her father's friend was also arrested around the same time as he was coming back from bringing his wife home from the heart doctor. Perfect timing to arrest somebody. As they pulled into their neighborhood, the FBI was waiting for him, Stacy explained. They arrested him right in the street in front of all of his neighbors. Famed attorney John Pierce, who was representing many of the January 6th Capitol protesters, is also helping to represent them. His new organization, the National Constitutional Law Union Incorporated, or NCLU, aims to preserve and protect the United States Constitution and the American way of life by providing legal support and funding to individuals whose constitutional rights, civil liberties, and similar rights are being violated or in jeopardy. The process obviously continues of federal authorities rounding up American citizens with respect to January 6th. The NCLU is honored to be stepping in to provide support for these defendants and their lawyers, Pierce said. It is a very unique, difficult, and uncertain time in American history. What is certain is that these defendants will be pleading not guilty to all charges. We look forward to trial and getting to the bottom of what actually happened on January 6th. Well, I can tell you what happened. Nothing. Nothing happened. And they're treating these people like they're some like mass murderers. And then BLM and Antifa, not even a slap on the wrist. Just do what you want. You'll get away with it. We'll let you out of jail. No bail. Just go back to just destroying everybody's property, stealing, killing people, assaulting people. Go ahead. Do your thing. We understand your grievances. Go for it. It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. Anyway, so that's kind of what's going on with January 6th. And there was a woman, um, she was given probation for being at the Capitol. I have to type it a certain way or it's not going to pull anything up. So it's a Indiana woman. She was the first. Well, of course they're not going to let me read it. I hate these stupid things. She's the first woman, or not the first woman, but she's the first person to be sentenced for the events on January 6th. Of course, this is from The Guardian. Anna Morgan Lloyd was sentenced to 3 years probation, but judge warns other defendants not to expect the same leniency. And I will tell you why she got such leniency. Okay? Number one, she should have never pled guilty if she didn't do anything wrong. The worst that she should have gotten was like a trespassing ticket, but I doubt that that should even have happened. But a federal judge sentenced a Capitol rioter to probation, not prison time, after she made an emotional apology to the American people for participating in a quote unquote savage display of violence. First of all, she wasn't even violent. So I don't know why you would say this unless you were told you either do this and we'll give you probation and you don't have to go to prison, or you continue to stick with your story that you did absolutely nothing wrong, which we do know that that's true, but we're still going to throw you in prison for a really long time if you don't do what we say. That's all this is. There's more to this. Anna Morgan Lloyd, a 49-year-old Donald Trump supporter from Indiana, was the first person to be sentenced for participating in the January 6th attack. She will spend no time in prison after pleading guilty to a single misdemeanor charge of parading, demonstrating, or picketing in a Capitol building, which I didn't know you couldn't do that. I thought you had the right to peaceably assemble and protest anywhere. Maybe not. But it's a misdemeanor, which means really a ticket would have been fine. Judge Royce C. Lamberth gave Morgan Lloyd 3 years of probation, but warned that other defendants who had not been as cooperative or contrite as she had been should not expect the same punishment. I don't want to create the impression that probation is the automatic outcome here, because it's not going to be, Lamberth said. Morgan Lloyd had initially boasted on Facebook about how she had stormed the Capitol, calling the event the most exciting day of my life. The Indiana grandmother and a friend had only spent a little over 10 minutes inside a Capitol hallway, prosecutors said, and had not been violent, destroyed government property, incited others to commit violence, or had any apparent connections with extremist groups. Prosecutors said Morgan Lloyd spent approximately 2 days in jail after storming the Capitol, and said she had cooperated fully with law enforcement and later expressed regret for her actions. With nearly 500 people already arrested and charged for their roles in the January 6th attack, the sentencing of Morgan Lloyd, a woman with no known connections to extremist groups, is the first indication of what kinds of sentences federal judges may impose on the hundreds of people who invaded the Capitol during the official certification of Trump's loss in the 2020 presidential election. While some members of extremist groups are facing more serious conspiracy charges for allegedly planning the violence at the Capitol in advance, and others are facing charges for assaulting law enforcement officers, many defendants like Morgan Lloyd are facing only misdemeanor charges. Um, So Lambert, a Ronald Reagan appointee who has served for 33 years, acknowledged that the sentence of probation would probably be controversial. A sizable part of our public may not think that I'm enacting an appropriate sentence in this case today and giving you the break that I'm going to give you. Actually, I think most of the people would agree that you're probably being way too harsh, even 3 years probation. Um, while Morgan Lloyd faced a maximum potential sentence of 6 months in prison, the judge said he did not think it was appropriate for him to impose a harsher sentence than federal prosecutors had requested for her. 3 years of probation, $500 in restitution, and 120 hours of community service, more than the 40 hours prosecutors had requested. So, I'm trying to see if there's any more about exactly what happened to this woman, but she had an attorney. Okay, this is her attorney. She says, I think she's learned a lot. Morgan Lloyd's attorney, Heather Shaner said, this has been a trauma for her, and she knows it was a trauma for the United States of America that people did what they did, and she would never do it again. Now, this is a state appointed attorney, so she doesn't care about her. Shaner says that her client was from a very small town and has had very little limited life exposure, and that she believed that many of the people who participated in the Capitol riots were uninformed or misinformed. She's a very fine woman, and I hope she gets probation, Shaner said. The conditions of her probation should include barring her owning firearms, prosecutors prosecutors requested. So she's been charged with with a misdemeanor. She's not a felon. She wasn't convicted of a felony, but they're going to take her Second Amendment right away. They're not going to allow her to own firearms. Unlike most federal defendants who typically remain in detention before trial, the vast majority of people charged in the Capitol riots have already been released. I haven't heard that. A Guardian analysis found. The stark contrast in pretrial detention rates has prompted questions about whether the predominantly white Capitol defendants were getting different treatment from prosecutors and judges than most federal defendants who are black and Latino. I agree. Um, what this article did not mention is that her lawyer, this woman's lawyer, sent her a list of books to read and movies to watch, of which one of those movies was Schindler's List. Because you're a Nazi. Here, go watch Schindler's List, learn a lesson or two. What does watching Schindler's List have to do with anything about this woman walking in the Capitol for 10 minutes? Really? This woman just bucked under pressure and said, Yep, I'm just going to do whatever they say. I want to get out of here. I want to go home. I don't care if I can't own a gun anymore. I just want to get out. And she just crumbled under the pressure and gave in and said, I'm guilty. Charge me. Let me go home. And that sets a standard, a precedent that under enough pressure, people will just comply. And I hope that a lot of the people don't. I hope that that's not what this turns into, because then I don't think there's any going back from that. This is all political persecution. That is all this is. That's all it is. There's no real reason for any of these 500 people to have been arrested. Maybe some. It depends. You'd really have to have some really good reasons. But even still, well, okay. My opinion in the matter is if you damage property, you vandalize property, you should get in trouble. No matter what side of the political spectrum you are on, BLM Antifa, Trump supporters, conservatives, if you do that kind of stuff, you should be in trouble. However, if you're going to let this side riot and burn down cities and hurt people and kill police officers and do absolutely nothing to them and then just let them continue living their lives with no consequences, You have to do the same for this side over here, which means nobody should have been arrested for the January 6th protest. No one should be in trouble if they vandalized anything that day in the Capitol. Everybody should walk away free and nothing should happen to them. Because if you're going to set standards, they need to be equal on both sides. Because our Constitution says that we are all created equal. We are all supposed to be equal under the law. But here, at this moment in time, we are not equal. If you are a conservative, if you supported Trump, you are not the same and you will not be treated the same and you will be persecuted. It's a witch hunt. Plain and simple. Witch hunt. That's all it is. Can't let it happen. Okay, the other two news stories, I'm just going to go through these pretty quickly. There was a Florida cop shooting suspect that's linked to a black militia group. And the FBI joined the hunt, and I think they got the guy. So his name is Ozone, quote unquote, I guess that's his nickname, Wallace, accused of shooting Officer Jason Rayner, is linked to NFAC Black Militia, New Black Panther Party, and Huey P. Newton Gun Club, a report says. So I don't know what the Huey P. Newton Gun Club is. I've never heard of that. But you know you didn't hear about this story. And why didn't you hear about this story? Well, you know why. This was 2 days ago in Florida. It's a local story, but you didn't hear about it anywhere else. And you know why. So, a suspect sought in connection with Wednesday's gunshot wounding of Daytona Beach, Florida police officer Jason Rayner has been apprehended following a manhunt that involved the FBI, according to reports. Daytona Beach Police Chief Jakari Young tweeted early Saturday that suspect Othal Toriane Rasheen Wallace, 29, known as Ozone, had been taken into custody. Um, so they held a press conference at 5 a.m. at the police department. At a news conference later Saturday morning, the chief said Wallace had been captured around 2:30 a.m. Saturday while hiding in a treehouse in a wooded area in DeKalb County, Georgia, east of Atlanta. The chief also tweeted a photo of the suspect. Now, as you can see, this is why it was not national news. Can't be spreading this kind of narrative. Absolutely not. Wallace was found with multiple weapons as well as body armor, the chief said, according to the Daytona Beach News Journal. The property where Wallace was found was owned by militant group NFAC, Not Effing Around Coalition, the chief said, according to the newspaper. Wallace had been wanted on charges of attempted first-degree murder of a law enforcement officer with a firearm, an FBI post on Twitter said Friday night. The suspect's Facebook page suggested he was linked to the groups NFAC Black Militia, the New Black Panther Party, and the Atlanta chapter of the Huey P. Newton Gun Club, which is named for a founder of the 1960s-era Black Panthers, the News Journal reported. Debbie James, a spokeswoman for NFAC Global, claimed Wallace had been terminated from the group in January. Of course they did. They don't want to be tied to that now. Another rep from the group claimed it had disbanded. It doesn't even really exist anymore, the NFAC's Brandon Oliver told WKMG-TV of Orlando. The NFAC, it's pretty much over. I bet it's not. Oliver claimed Wallace had recently devoted his life to God, according to the station. Oh, of course he did. Of course. A criminal. He just turned his life around. But he shot a cop in the head. But come on. So, FBI Most Wanted, they tweeted out, the FBI in Jacksonville, Florida is assisting the Daytona Beach PD with the search for, I'm just going to call him Ozone Wallace, wanted for attempted murder of a police officer in Daytona Beach, Florida on June 23, 2021, when he allegedly shot the officer in the face. Um, Wallace has a long criminal history, but see, he just recently found God. Sound like a similar story we just heard like a year ago, doesn't it? Does to me. That includes aggravated assault with a deadly weapon without intent to kill, trespassing, resisting an officer, and driving with a suspended license, authorities have said. A Twitter post from the FBI's Jacksonville, Florida office included two photos of a suspect, one that appeared to be a mugshot from a previous arrest, and another that appeared to be a screen capture from body cam video footage that Daytona Beach police released earlier in the week. The video footage showed Officer Rayner being shot around 9 p.m. Wednesday during a confrontation with a suspect identified by authorities as Wallace behind an apartment building, the News Journal reported. Rayner was patrolling the area because of residents' complaints about crime in the area, the report said. On Friday, Rayner, 26, remained fighting for his life in a hospital after suffering a gunshot wound to his head. The surgery was fairly successful, the police chief said Thursday. He still has a long way to go. Rayner has had a record of heroic acts during his career. For example, Rayner was one of several officers who helped convince a distraught woman not to jump from a local bridge in December 2018. On Friday, actor Scott Baio posted a video offering support for the wounded officer. Let me tell you, I like Scott Baio, and he he has a YouTube channel. If you never watched it, it's very informal. He just jumps on and he talks, and it's nice to see celebrities actually speaking out. There are a few that will speak out and tell you how they're feeling, what their side is, and I mean, I don't think Scott Baio is really doing much in the industry anymore. I don't know exactly what he does anymore, but it's still nice to see.
Officer Rain, I just want you to know that we're praying for you, we're pulling for you. We know that your family has set up a GoFundMe. And also, the Fallen Officers Organization is there to help you. We are behind you 100%. So people out there, please help this family. Please help this officer that we support. We support all law enforcement. God bless you. We're thinking of you, and we are praying for you. Officer Rain, I just want you to...
Just real simple. But most people, if you'd put out a video like that, you'd be canceled. But I don't really know if they can cancel Scott Baio because he's not really doing anything. A reward leading to the capture of Wallace had been doubled to $200,000 on Friday, the News Journal reported. The additional $100,000 came from a single anonymous donor, Volusia County Sheriff Mike Chitwood told the newspaper. So he was caught. Officer still fighting for his life. That's where we're at. I'm gonna close some of these out. The next one, there were 3 people arrested for beating and strangling an Illinois officer during a traffic stop. Once again, this was these stories are hidden and you have to dig for them. And now these are 2 incidents involving police officers. And you're starting to see more and more of this happen. And in my opinion, it is because the left and the media has so completely demonized police officers and allowed people to do things to police officers with no consequences, that now you're going to start seeing it happen more and more. Just like I feel like every other day or sometimes every day I'm hearing about some kind of shooting going on. Doesn't matter who's involved, but there's always some kind of shooting happening almost every day, and it's crazy. But these people in this country have lost their minds. Absolutely. This is from the Police Tribune, and Mandy Malone. I mean, her picture covers right over her name, so I can't really see it. But 3 people have been charged with attacking, beating, and strangling an Aurora police officer during a traffic stop on Monday night. The incident occurred at about 10:30 p.m. on June 21st after the Aurora, I hate that word, officer saw a vehicle run a stop sign at the intersection of Plum Street and Randall Road near West Aurora High School, WGN reported. The suspect pulled over in a driveway in the 600 block of North Elmwood Drive and started screaming foul words at the officer from the car. Police said a female passenger got out of the suspect vehicle and the officer ordered her to get back in multiple times, but she didn't. The officer began to arrest the woman for obstruction, according to Aurora Patch. That's when the driver, later identified as 28-year-old Paul Sherrod, got out of the vehicle and threatened the officer. Aurora, gosh, Aurora police said in a press release that Sherrod fled on foot at that point, the Aurora Patch reported. I feel like they're putting that in there on purpose to trip people up. The officer chased Sherrod and both female passengers from the suspect vehicle, later identified as 24-year-old Jennifer Taylor and 26-year-old Sheba Taylor, chased after him. Police said the woman attacked the officer and then began striking the officer with closed fists and kicking his body and head. Police said the women held onto the officer and allowed Sherrod to hit him in the head. The officer heard a male's voice and then was struck repeatedly in the head from several angles. Police said one of the women strangled the officer next, the Aurora Patch reported. The press release from the police department said a female passenger placed her forearm around the officer's neck and applied significant force to his windpipe, causing him to lose the ability to breathe. He's so fortunate that they didn't grab for his gun and kill him right there on the spot. Police said she was still strangling the officer when backup arrived on scene and arrested the violent trio. The officer was transported to a nearby hospital for treatment. Our Aurora police officers are entrusted with keeping our community safe from harm. Police Chief Kristen Zeman said, I am at a loss of words when an officer is physically attacked from something that would have been a simple traffic ticket. We will not allow our city to become a place where criminals feel emboldened and lawlessness ensues. Aurora Mayor Richard Irvin also condemned the brutal attack on the officer. This type of lawlessness and violence against our police officers cannot and will not be tolerated. This was an act of malice and cowardice, and I will absolutely seek that the perpetrators are prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law. Let's keep this officer in our prayers as the officer makes a full and complete recovery. Jennifer Taylor, Sheba Taylor, and Sherrod were all charged with 5 felonies, including aggravated assault of a peace officer. They were booked into the King County Jail and appeared at the bond call on Tuesday morning. The women were each held on a $50,000 bond. Sherrod was held on $75,000 bond, which means, oh, Sandy Malone, not Mandy, wrote it, which means they need 10,000 to get the women out and what is it, 7,500 to get the man out. I'm sure they'll come up with it and they'll bond out. And they'll probably go commit more crimes until they go to trial and get put in jail. That's just kind of how that happens. However, I'm going to save this to my desktop because I like this website. Okay. I don't know. It just seems like so much stuff is happening, and I'm really tired of it. I'm tired of all of the violence going on, and nobody getting in any trouble for it unless you have to be in the right kind of state. You have to be in a red state to actually face consequences for your criminal actions. And that's the sad part. If you live in a Democrat run state and you're not white, you can pretty much do whatever you want and not get in any trouble. At least that is the way it seems to be portrayed. And I think that's what people take away with them. Listen, it's kind of heavy today. I know there's a lot of heavy stuff that I was talking about, but um, there is a movie that is coming out. My dad asked me if I had seen a trailer for a movie, and I thought, no, I have not. And my first thought when he told me this movie was, this is a parody. It's like another team, not another team movie or scary movie, something like that. That's exactly what I expected. And when I watched the trailer, that is how I looked at it. The sad part is that it wasn't written as a parody. It was written to portray reality, which it doesn't. It's not reality. And I think if people do go see it, they are going to see it. Mostly, they're going to see it to laugh at it because it is a parody in and of itself, even if they didn't intend for it to be. I won't go see it because I'm not going to support the writers. I'm not going to give my money. First of all, I don't go to movie theaters. But even at home, I'm not going to watch it. I'm not going to support it. That's like when Cuties came out and people were watching it so they could do videos on it and talk about it and discuss it. I'm like, you don't have to watch it to be able to discuss it and tell what's wrong with the movie. You could just look at the previews and that could give you a whole video. Same with this one. I can just look at the trailer. I know what the premise is. I can talk about it. I don't need to see it, and I won't support it. Even if I laugh comically at it, because it's so out of touch with reality that all you can do is laugh. It's called Karen. Believe it or not, it's called Karen. And I'm just going to play it. Have yourself a good laugh.
Guess this is a long way from East Point.
Baby, you just gotta give it a chance.
Tell me about your new neighbors.
They're black. Do you mind keeping it down? If you don't comply, I'll tell the manager.
Okay, hang on. I know. I wasn't intending to pause it while I played it. Has anybody ever talked to a friend and they had new neighbors move in next door, and the way you describe them is you just say their race? Yeah. Oh, you got new neighbors? Well, what are they like? They're Asian. They're Mexican. I mean, who does that? We had new neighbors move in next door. My first thought was, hey, I think there's two brothers that moved in next door. Or at least at the time, I thought it was one. And later I found out they're brothers. I don't know if they're twins, but they look a lot alike. So they could be twins. I've never asked. Um, but, two brothers. And then a girlfriend moved in with her kids. Okay. I didn't look at what their race was. It was just we had two new neighbors. It was guys. They're brothers. Possibly twins. Come on. This is so far from reality. It gets worse.
Somebody's taking home security serious.
Hi, I am Karen Drexler. I'm your neighbor. You need to be taking your trash cans off the curb right when the trash is picked up.
Is she nice?
Yeah, she's nice.
Wait a minute. We have a white entitled neighbor named Karen.
Karen.
I mean, it's like two on the nose. When you're trying, they can't even subtly get the message across of what they're trying to say. They spell it out completely for you. Movies are supposed to like give you little subtleties to kind of indoctrinate a certain message to you. Nope, they're just going to spell it right out. White, entitled woman, and her actual name is Karen. How much clearer could you get? Clearly a racist, right?
Okay, enjoy yourself.
There she is, slaving away in the kitchen. I've come across some very suspecting teenagers.
Suspecting?
Can you please hurry up? Please, they're very aggressive. Yep.
I left my wallet with my ID at home. Leave us alone. We didn't do anything.
How the heck did you?
Can I ask a question real quick? This guy, when it was daylight outside, that's here in the little screen, was he not a white guy? What? I don't understand. Is he black? Looks white to me. I don't know, maybe because he's hanging out with black kids? I don't know. Let's see.
End up moving to this neighborhood. Next thing you know, we have criminals. You take care of him, and I will take care of her.
Would you mind stepping out of the car?
My office has uncovered some disturbing information on her and her brother.
She doesn't like black people.
We have a search warrant.
Well, I'm black.
I know, she doesn't like you either.
I want to sell the house.
What I do? You can't tell me, huh?
We are living next door to...
Sorry. One more time, real quick. Like, I know people who support the Confederate flag. It's a heritage thing. I don't think I've ever met anybody who has a soap dispenser with the Confederate flag on it. That people just don't have that kind of stuff. Usually it's on a t-shirt, or it's an actual flag, maybe a sticker. Nobody does that. Nobody does that. I don't get it. And I'm sorry, but just because you support the Confederate flag, it does not make you a racist. It doesn't. There are people that have a family history that goes back to that. If you want to learn more about that, you can go listen to my podcast about the Civil War. I'm not going to get into all that. It's not a racist thing. You can go listen to it, and it explains why it's not. Anyway, continue on.
A racist. You went in her house?
You wouldn't want your wife to know our little secret, right?
There's not standard police procedure back there.
What do we have here?
Where you got a hammer, everything looks like nails.
You people are very angry.
Shut your mouth, boy.
Bad things happen to people that don't comply.
And look, 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 look. Oh, that's blood dripping down. Okay. I thought last time I saw this, I thought that was a noose coming down off of the K. I see now. It's blood dripping. So, this is the new movie for 2021. Let's break all COVID rules to make this movie for sure because got to get that out there. All this is divisive. This is what this is. It's divisive. And it is intended to just divide us more and more. And anybody who believes that this is what reality is out in the real world is delusional. This isn't reality. It's fake. It's a propaganda thing to keep us separated. That's all it is. Do not support this movie. Have a good laugh at it through the trailer. The trailer tells you enough. You don't need to see the whole thing. That pretty much is the movie right there. And the other narrative that they're spinning is that if you know a cop, you can just call them up and they'll break the law for you to put somebody in jail that you don't like. No, they won't. You might end up getting arrested for trying to bribe a cop. Come on. Anyway, I felt like I had to share that. I don't know if a lot of people knew that that was an actual thing. Of course I didn't until it was pointed out to me. But Michael Knowles talks about it. It's pretty funny what he has to say about it. First heard about it on Live with the Mala through PragerU. So you can check them out too. They're pretty good. Okay, moving on. I have another story here. Oh gosh. I was like, I thought I closed that out. This is by Amanda Prestigia Como. Okay, I'm sorry I butchered that. This is from the Daily Wire. So the Make-A-Wish CEO said that only vaccinated sick kids to get wishes that include air travel or large gatherings. After a pandemic pause, Make-A-Wish America will resume granting wishes that include air travel and large gatherings starting in September 2021, but only if the sick wish kid and others participating in the wish are 2 weeks out from vaccination. I'm excited to share that Make-A-Wish will resume granting air travel wishes within the United States and its territories, as well as granting wishes involving large gatherings for vaccinated Wish families as soon as September 15th, 2021, announced Make-A-Wish President and CEO Richard Davis in a recent video. All Wish participants, including your Wish kid and any siblings, will need to be 2 weeks past completion of either a 1 dose or 2 dose vaccine. So, sorry that your child's sick and they're dying. We're not going to fulfill their wish. They don't deserve it because y'all won't get vaccinated against your will to make their dreams come true. What a predicament to put a parent in. You don't want your kids vaccinated because you don't think that they need it because of their ages. You don't feel safe about it because there's not been enough research and testing done on it. You have a child that's sick and maybe they have 2 months to live, and this is the biggest thing that they wanted to do before they die. And how terrible you must feel to have to say, I can't because we can't get vaccinated. Sorry, you're not going to have your wish fulfilled. Or, sorry, kids, we're going to jab something into you that we know absolutely nothing about that could be harmful just to grant a wish for this child. What a terrible situation to have to put a family in. Absolutely ridiculous. This man should be ashamed of himself, honestly. Make-A-Wish is a popular nonprofit organization that seeks to grant critically sick children, including the terminally ill, life-changing experiences dubbed wishes. Sometimes celebrities or sports figures participate, such as by visiting Wish Kids in person. If I were a celebrity, and let's say one of these Wish Kids, their biggest dream was to meet me, and the CEO was like, nope, you have to be vaccinated, I would just set it up myself and say, I don't care. I'm going to go meet the child. It's worth it to me. Um, A wish experience can be a game changer for a child with critical illness, the organization outlines under its mission section of its website. This one belief guides us in everything we do at Make a Wish. It inspires us to grant life changing wishes for children going through so much. It compels us to be creative in exceeding the expectations of every wish kid. It drives us to make our donated resources go as far as possible. Most of all is the founding principle of our vision to grant the wish of every eligible child. The organization has been active but limited during the COVID pandemic. Over the past year, we've spent each day at Make a Wish preparing for the moment when every possible wish could safely move forward. David said in the video, "We approach this responsibility with a focus and diligence for your family's health and safety. Now we've consulted with doctors and medical professionals throughout the National Medical Advisory Council, and we've been monitoring public health organizations like the CDC and the American Academy of Pediatrics. And based on their collective guidance, today we're making a big step toward and delivering hope to you, our Wish kids, and our Wish families. I'm excited to share that Make a Wish will resume granting air travel wishes within the United States and its territories, as well as granting wishes involving large gatherings for vaccinated Wish families as soon as September 15th, 2021. All Wish participants, including your Wish kid and any siblings, will need to be 2 weeks past completion of either a 1 dose or 2 dose vaccine. While we won't ask for proof of vaccination, we will ask for any adult participant to sign a letter of understanding that certifies that they and any minors participating in the Wish are vaccinated and understand the risk of traveling at this time. When asked for clarification and comment by the Daily Wire, Make a Wish sent a statement via email confirming that wishes which involve air travel and large gatherings will resume for Wish children and their families who have been vaccinated on September 15th, 2021. Make a Wish plans to resume granting wishes involving air travel and large gatherings. Why are they repeating this all over every time? However, Make a Wish emphasized that the nonprofit has granted 6,500 wishes to Wish children and families, including those who are unvaccinated and vaccinated, since the pandemic started, and will not require anyone to get vaccinated to receive a wish. So, Make a Wish, this is their statement. Make a Wish will not require anyone to get vaccinated to receive a wish and continues to grant life changing wishes for all eligible children, including children who have not been vaccinated. The nonprofit said, since the beginning of the pandemic, Make a Wish has safely granted over 6,500 wishes to Wish children and families, including those who are unvaccinated and vaccinated. We are currently granting and continuing to grant a wide variety of wishes, such as road trips to national parks, virtual celebrity meetings, outdoor playhouses, shopping sprees, staycations, wishes for pets, computers, room redecorations, and many more, to bring hope and joy to all of the children we serve. Consistent with WHO, CDC, and AAP guidance for children with underlying medical conditions, Make a Wish plans to resume granting wishes involving air travel and large gatherings for Wish children and their families who have been vaccinated on September 15th, 2021. We remain dedicated to granting a wish for all eligible children. It's unclear if there will be expectations for sick children advised by medical professionals not to get the COVID vaccine. So this is from Felum3. It's a tweet and it says, "This is literally a new low for humanity. Terminally ill children will not be granted a wish from the Make-A-Wish Foundation unless, you guessed it, they are fully vaccinated." And that's the problem I have. What if they can't be vaccinated due to health reasons? And then you're forcing their family to be vaccinated to allow their child or their sibling to experience this wish because of everything that they're going through. And it just puts everybody in a very difficult spot. So this doctor said, oh God, I don't want to reread this. It's pretty much the same stuff. So there you go. But yeah, gotta be vaccinated. Like I guess they'll do some wishes if you're not vaccinated. They did say they're not going to require you to show proof, so you could lie, but somehow I feel like if you lie, they're gonna figure it out and you're gonna end up getting in trouble. Maybe you'll have to pay for the wish then in that case. I wouldn't recommend lying. But I'm just saying you could, but it seems like a trap to me. So find another way to grant your kid's wish. That's all I'm saying. Find another way. You can do it. There are people that will do things without requiring that. Call Scott Baio. He'll help out. Okay, so we've been talking about police, okay? And the biggest problem that we have with police is defunding them in Democrat run states and cities. White progressives are shocked to learn that Black and Latino voters don't share their radical defund the police views. Oh, they're so shocked? Yeah, Black people and Hispanic people would prefer more police presence in their communities because of the crime that goes on in their communities. Okay, this is by Ash Shao. Guess that's how you say it. From the Daily Wire. It says the New York Times was forced to admit what has been obvious for a while. Minority communities don't support progressives' radical views on criminal justice. Democrats' most left wing supporters claim their calls to defund the police will help minority communities, but those communities know the truth. This is from the Times. In a contest that centered on crime and public safety, Eric Adams, who emerged as the leading Democrat, focused much of his message on denouncing progressive slogans and policies that he said threatened the lives of black and brown babies and were being pushed by a lot of young, white, affluent people. A retired police captain and Brooklyn's borough president, he rejected calls to defund the police department and pledged to expand its reach in the city. Black and brown voters in Brooklyn and the Bronx flocked to his candidacy, awarding Mr. Adams with sizable leading margins in neighborhoods from Eastchester to East New York. Though the official winner may not be known for weeks because of the city's new ranked choice voting system, Mr. Adams holds a commanding edge in the race that will be difficult for his rivals to overcome. Okay, so number one, they're supporting a Democrat who chooses not to defund the police because obviously you don't do that. But the catch is, we heard this before. Election results are not going to be known for weeks? Why? Where did we see this before? And what ended up happening? Why does it take weeks to count votes, especially in a local race and not a nationwide race? Why? What are they hiding? Seems weird to me. As the Times admitted, the evidence provided by Adams' support in New York shows a disconnect between progressive activists and the rank and file black and Latino voters who say they have the most to gain from their agenda. Liberal elites may claim their policies focused on so-called racial justice and combating alleged white supremacy will benefit minority voters, but those voters don't see it that way. Black people talk about politics in more practical and everyday terms, Hakeem Jefferson, an assistant professor of political science at Stanford University, told the Times. What makes more sense for the people who are often distrustful of broad political claims is something that's more in the middle. The median black voter is not AOC and is actually closer to Eric Adams, he added, referencing Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. This has been an emerging problem for Democrats in recent years who tend to believe that since they receive the majority of non-white votes in elections, their policies are all popular with minority voters. The trend shows otherwise. Despite a massive Democrat and media campaign to claim former President Donald Trump was a racist, he actually increased the Republican share of black and Latino voters in 2016 and 2020, making larger gains with those voters than non-college educated white voters. On issues beyond criminal justice, data indicates that black and Latino voters are less likely to identify as liberal than white voters. An analysis by Gallup found that the share of white Democrats who identify as liberal has risen by 20 percentage points since the early 2000s. Over the same period, the polling firm found a 9-point rise in liberal identification among Latino Democrats and an 8-point increase among black Democrats, the Times reported. As the Daily Wire previously reported, this has been a problem for Democrats who seem to assume Latinos will vote for them and that talking about illegal immigration with a legal immigrant population is a winning strategy. So, but my issue is when will the black community and the Hispanic community finally stand up and say enough is enough and vote other people into office that don't support the Democrat policies that you don't like? How long is it going to take for you to wake up and say, we're done with these people, let's try somebody else, and let's get the policies in that we want? You've been voting for the same people. Maybe not the same person, but the same type of people over and over and over and over, and it never changes. Do you want to know what everybody should know what the definition of insanity is? It's doing the same thing over and over and expecting a different result every time. You're never going to get it if you keep electing Democrats into your positions of leadership. Never going to change. Get that now and start making changes from the ground up. Change who is leading your cities, your towns, your state, your federal government. Change it. Stop supporting these people. Now, speaking of white liberal activists, because that's who it always is. It's these white liberal middle class people, upper middle class people that think they know best and speak for everybody, no matter who it is. France isn't having any of it. And I'm really confused as why France is doing this, which Europe is a very liberal uh, place. All those countries in Europe, they're just very liberal. Much more liberal than America was at one point. America was usually more conservative than European countries. That's just the way it was. We were more modest while they were not. That's just the way it was. However, this is written by Ryan Saavedra, my bad. France bans use of woke gender neutral language in schools is a danger for our country. I don't know why this isn't being said here. I mean, I know some parents are saying it, but we're having leaders that are saying it in France, and they are putting a stop to it everywhere. France is continuing to crack down on far left attempts to make the country woke by banning the use of gender neutral language in schools, saying that the push was a threat to the French language altogether and could push people to learn English instead. And let me tell Okay, so I bet you the people that push this, okay, I don't know what goes on in France and why they take these ideas from over here. But people in America that don't speak another language, and while I don't speak another language fluently, I did take 4 years of French, and it's similar to Spanish, and I know that those language have gendered words. There's no two ways around it. You have masculine words and you have feminine words. And there are certain things that you say when you're speaking to a girl versus when you're speaking to a boy. There's just so much that goes into learning a language that has gendered language where we don't really have that here. Okay? You can ask someone the same question, whether a boy or a girl. You don't have to put a masculine word in there or a feminine word. Okay? It's the same. It's not how it is with French or with Spanish, and I know there's other languages that also are gendered. And so if you're trying to cancel and make everything gender neutral, that's got to be hard to be accustomed to when you speak a language that all your life you've known as gendered language. It's ridiculous, okay? Anyway, the country's education ministry issued the ruling last week after a push to include full stops in the middle of written words, dubbed midpoints, which allow both male and female forms to be represented simultaneously. The Daily Mail reported. In French grammar, nouns take on the gender of the subject to which they refer, with male preferred over female in mixed settings. Right, so if you have a bunch of people, mixed men and women, you always go with the masculine side of it, but if you're talking to a girl, you would use the feminine way of saying it. And I think that it would be an insult if you use the masculine side. The Academy, okay, I'm not going to say that in French. The Académie Française, a nearly 400-year-old institution that guards the French language, pushed back on the attempt to make the language woke, saying that it is harmful to the practice and understanding of French. Natalie Elimas, the state secretary for priority education, said on Thursday that the attempts to make the language woke were a danger for our country and the death knell for the use of French in the world. Elimas said that the move would not make the language more popular and instead would drive people to learn English instead. With the spread of inclusive writing, the English language, already hegemonic, homogenic, I think I know what they're trying to say, but I think I said that right. Across the world would certainly and perhaps forever defeat the French language, she said. And also, I want to say French is very fun to speak. I understand I took 4 years of it and I can't speak a lick of it. I can read it sometimes, I can understand some of it, but I can't speak it fluently. I know a few phrases that I remember, but it's still a very pretty language if you can speak it. Jean-Michel Blanquer, France's education minister, said that the proposed changes to the language would make it harder for people with learning disabilities to learn French. France's leftist teacher union, the SUD Education Union, issued a statement attacking the ban and called on schools to ignore it. Said Education demands from the minister that he stop trying to impose his backwardness on the educational community. Sud calls on staff to take no account of these instructions from another time and to exercise as they wish, depending on professional situations, the full use of their pedagogical freedom. Pedagogical? I don't know how to say it. I actually don't even know what that means. Top French politicians, journalists, and intellectuals have started to warn in recent months that far left woke culture from the United States was a threat to France. Emboldened by these comments, prominent intellectuals have banded together against what they regard as contamination by the out of control woke leftism of American campuses and its attendant cancel culture. The New York Times reported in February. With its echoes of the American culture wars, the battle began inside French universities, but is being played out increasingly in the media. Politicians have been weighing in more and more, especially following a turbulent year during which a series of events called into question tenets of French society. The Times report notes that some of Macron's remarks were made in a speech that he gave last year. The Times surmised Macron's speech as warning that American woke leftism was an existential threat to France that fuels secessionism, abets Islamism, gnaws at national unity, and attacks France's intellectual and cultural heritage. I am going to have to say, and as much as I don't like this man, I'm going to have to say that I agree. I agree with this president. He's right. It's a very big danger. And if you don't want it taking over your country, then don't let it. So it means of or relating to, well, what does that mean? Let's see. Of, relating to, or befitting a teacher or education. Okay. So when they said it, they mean the full use of their freedom to teach, basically. Okay. Now I learned a new word. Learn something new every day. Last thing I'm going to bring up as we move across the globe into China, who discussed making bioweapons to target races, covertly launching attack with asymptomatic spread. So this is also by Ryan Saavedra. And this says, a new report from an investigative reporter who has been at the forefront of reporting on the origins of the coronavirus pandemic at the Wuhan Institute of Virology alleges that China discussed the threat that man made viruses pose to mankind and how they might be weaponized to target certain groups of people. Now, listen, when this came about, I had no doubt that it leaked from a lab. My issue was I didn't know whether it was leaked accidentally or on purpose. But I did say that if it was accidentally released, they intended to release it on purpose in a future time. They were getting it ready to be released in the future, but it got out accidentally, and now they have to make up for it and act like they didn't know. It's a big mistake, and they had to do all this big cover up. Had it never leaked accidentally last year, I think that it would have been leaked out in the future at some point this year, next year, the year after that. But at some point, they were getting ready to release this on the world. That's what I believe. David Asher, a top investigator who led the State Department's investigation into the origins of the coronavirus pandemic, an investigation that the Biden administration shut down, said that what China wrote in its declaration to the United Nations essentially laid out a roadmap of developments in biotechnology pertinent to the Biological Weapons Convention that the Chinese indicated as particularly salient. It wasn't clear from their declaration whether this was for potential offensive use of synthetic biology and other techniques, but it certainly appears to lay out what they felt were going to be the drivers of a more potent offense in the future decade related to biotechnology, he said. This is probably the most disturbing thing to note, that there could be a type of population targeting or ethnic targeting using biology, according to the Chinese. That doesn't mean they did it in the case of COVID 19 or anything else, but it definitely implied that they were fully aware that this is feasible and possible. When asked by Australian investigative reporter Shari Markson about how to interpret what China wrote, Asher said they lay out the cookbook and they say, what's the impact of the cookbook? They say it's the increased threat of biological weapons using advanced technology, he said. They talk about increased difficulty complying with the convention. China made the statement in a submission several years ago to the Seventh Review Conference of the state parties to the Convention on the Prohibition of the Development, Production, and Stockpiling of Biological and Toxin Weapons. The submission warned that new kinds of biotechnology could be used for hostile purposes, posing a latent threat to human society, and that the threat was growing. The submission said that the new technologies were making it harder to maintain full and strict compliance with Biological Weapons Convention. The following are some excerpts from China's submission. Advances in synthetic biology are turning the synthesis and transformation of life into reality and mean that the basic regulation of biological research, the preparation of new drugs, and the promotion of new sources of energy are groundbreaking endeavors. But they also have the potential to be used for evil ends. Theoretically speaking, synthetic biotechnology poses a huge latent threat to mankind as it could be used in the future to create pathogens of even greater toxicity and infectiousness than those currently known, and which are resistant to traditional vaccines and drugs, as well as hard to isolate and identify with present day technology. The sequencing of pathogen DNA has opened the way to the development of new diagnostic methods, drug, and vaccines. But the same data can also be used to synthesize new pathogens and modify pathogen antigenicity, infection specificity, toxicity, and resistance to drugs, causing traditional means of dealing with infectious disease to fail and rendering the prevention and control of such disease even harder. Thorough study of systems biology in the body can systematically analyze differences in genes and susceptibility to disease in the population and lay the theoretical foundations for an across the board improvement in levels of human health, but it can also create the potential for biological weapons based on genetic differences between races. Once hostile elements grasp that different ethnic groups harbor intrinsically different genetic susceptibilities to particular pathogens, they can put that knowledge into practice and create genetic weapons targeted at a racial group with a particular susceptibility. The rapid development of biological sciences and technologies may significantly increase the destructiveness of biological weapons. One way it may do so is by increasing the virulence of pathogenic microorganisms. Microbial genomic research can enhance the virulence or pathogenicity of a pathogen by modifying its antigen- antigenic, man, I hate medical words, properties. Another way is by rendering traditional medicines and vaccines ineffective. Supergenes conferring resistance to antibiotics can be synthesized by DNA recombination technology, making pathogens highly drug resistant, which is, I think, what a lot of people believe because it's gene therapy through the vaccine that you're getting now, the mRNA. It can change the DNA and it can turn you into like super genes and turn you into a super spreader, and nothing can stop that. That's alleged. I can't prove any of that. But that's allegedly what it is. Pathogens with detoxifying genes can also be produced, as can pathogens that can evade recognition and attack by the immune system, rendering vaccines and medicines useless. A third way is by making the target population more susceptible to pathogenic microbes. RNA interference can inactivate specific genes in the body, inhibit expression of important bodily proteins, disrupt psychological function, and heighten the effects of a bioweapon attack. And a fourth way is by making biological attacks more stealthy. Foreign genes or viruses can be introduced into the target population asymptomatically by means of gene therapy vectors, enabling a biological weapon attack to be mounted covertly. It it all just seems so perfectly orchestrated. A little bit scary. This is why I don't trust anything that the government pushes about COVID. And I won't get anything that they recommend. Not doing it. Developments in biotechnology have created many new problems and challenges for biological arms control and treaty monitoring, making it harder to monitor compliance with the convention in the biological sphere. One way this occurs is through the synthesis of new agents of biological warfare. Theoretically speaking, synthetic biology can create microbes possessing any special attributes people may wish. New varieties of virus and bacteria more virulent, more infectious, and more drug resistant than any known to mankind today. Gene sequencing is getting steadily faster and the costs are coming down. Industrial applications of sequencing technology are already appearing and can be used to synthesize new pathogens. Another way is through making it easier to create biological weapons. Modern genetic technology can be used to bring about genetic modifications in traditional agents of biological warfare, making their production more efficient and increasing their stability. A third way is through the gestation of a new generation of biological weapons. Research into genetic differences and susceptibility to pathogens among different populations and species can lead to the creation of racial bioweapons based on genetic differences between races. The science and technology in synthetic biology are spreading rapidly, and synthetic DNA technology has already become a basic tool of biological research. The related reagents and equipment are becoming even easier to obtain. Accidental mistakes in biotech laboratories can place mankind in great danger. Synthetic biology, as some civilian biotechnology research and applications, may unintentionally give rise to new, highly hazardous man made pathogens with unforeseeable consequences. Miles Yu, a top advisor to then Secretary of State Mike Pompeo, told the Australian that he had discovered a Chinese research paper that contained the research fields that China mentioned in its submission. Excuse me. It sent chills up my spine when I saw the PLA submissions and the type of research China's biological weapons experts have been working on, as China proudly announced to a World Biological Weapons Convention, right there in black and white. You said about the document, it bore macabre significance because anything China's biolabs do might well be connected to the PLA's biological weapons of mass destruction of the most lethal and sophisticated kind. Doesn't that make you feel good? Enjoy your week. Anyway, I I don't ever know what to say about China and what they do, and they get away with it, and nobody has done anything. Trump was trying, and then in walks Biden, and it's like, yeah, have a heyday, go create mass destruction bioweapons. We know you already did it once, but you continue on. Have fun. They're just having fun. Come on. It's so crazy. It's so crazy. But very important stuff. I mean, it's starting to really look like this was done on purpose. It's starting to look. So we should be careful and we should be on the lookout for another attack, I think. If we come to find out that this was done on purpose, make no mistake, China will do it again because it really didn't work as well as they might have hoped. Or maybe they're going to do it again after more people are vaccinated. Who knows? I'm sitting here and I was thinking about censoring my words because of YouTube, but I'm not getting paid. So why would I censor myself? There's no ads running on my videos. So I'm just going to say whatever I want, and if YouTube doesn't like it, then oh well. I'm not going to censor myself. Anyway, that's it for today. I hope you learned something. I learned a new vocabulary word. That was nice. It's always nice to learn something new. Even if it's not really the best news. You got to always continue learning. That's what I think. So it makes you a better person if you keep learning something. Anyway, I hope you have a good rest of your day. Please join me on my Facebook, Lauren Collins. I just got to say something. You can listen to my audio only podcast on Google Podcasts, Stitcher, Pandora, Anchor, Spotify. There's many other platforms. And also you can join my subreddit, just got to say something. Email me anything, gotta say something 21 at gmail.com. If you have a story you want me to talk about, any questions you want to ask, anything, you can email me anything. And please like and subscribe to my channel, like the video, comment on the video, share it. And I'm really working towards building up this channel. I know it's going to take time, but it's it's really exciting. So I would really appreciate it if you would subscribe if you like what I do, and also share the video to let other people know so they can come and check it out and also subscribe. I would appreciate it. And please go check out the Scott Ford Show. Isaac Hayes at the Cajun Conservative and his Christian podcast, Brothers Just Searching. Christy on Facebook at the Lennar Score and Christy's Closet with a K on YouTube, and TV's Rob is Unwoke. You're going to like them, I promise. And that will be it for today. And I hope to see you back here tomorrow. God bless.